My grandfather said something that shocked me forever. He looked me right in the eyes and said, "If you only save money, you will die poor." I just stood there for a second. Then I laughed. I thought he was crazy. I mean, what kind of advice is that? Everyone says, save money, save money, save money. My parents, my teachers, the internet. Everyone. But my grandfather? He told me that very idea was destroying my future. Today, I understand exactly what he meant. And if you listen carefully to this story, I promise, it may change how you see money, work, and life forever. When I was young, my grandfather lived in this small, modest house. There was no luxury, no fancy car parked in the driveway, no expensive clothes hanging in his closet. But something was different about him. Everyone in our community respected him. He had this quiet confidence, this sense of purpose. He woke up early every single morning, not because he was poor and had to grind, but because he had a reason to get out of bed. He had a purpose. One day, I finally got the courage to ask him. I said, "Grandfather, why don't you save more money? You work so hard. Why don't you put more aside? What if something bad happens?" He just smiled. It wasn't a big, flashy smile. It was a quiet, knowing smile. And he said, "Come, walk with me." We walked out to the backyard, to a small tree he had planted years ago. It was growing, but slowly. He pointed to it and asked me, "What happens if you never water this tree?" I was a kid, but I knew the answer. I said, "Well, it will die." He nodded slowly. "Money is the same." I was so confused. What did he mean? Money is the same as a tree. He continued, "If you only save money and you never use it to grow, your life becomes small. Your thinking becomes small. Your future becomes small." And then he said the line that I will never, ever forget. He said, "Poor people protect money. Rich people use money." Silence. That sentence just hit me like a bolt of lightning. It completely shattered my view of the world. To explain, my grandfather told me a story about two brothers. They grew up in the same village, had the same childhood, and were given the same opportunities in life. Brother A saved every single coin he ever earned. He was terrified of losing it. He never took any risks. He never learned any new skills. He never invested in himself. He just piled his money up, hoping it would keep him safe. Brother B, on the other hand, used his money completely differently. He took some of it and invested in learning a new trade. He failed. He lost some money. He tried again. He used more money to travel and learn from others. People in the village laughed at Brother B. They'd whisper, "Look at him. Why waste money on learning? Why take all those risks? He should just save like his brother." 10 years passed. What happened? Brother A was still in the village, sitting on his pile of money, just as afraid as he was 10 years before. He was afraid of losing his job, afraid of getting sick, afraid of the future. His money didn't make him brave. It made him a prisoner. Brother B? He had options. The skills he learned had opened doors he never knew existed. He wasn't afraid of losing one job because he knew he could create another. He had freedom. And that's when my grandfather looked at me and said, "Money is not safety. Skill is safety." Then his tone became very serious. He said, "The world doesn't reward people who hide. It rewards people who grow." He broke it down for me so simply. Saving money without growth equals fear. Using money to grow your skills equals freedom. And spending money just to show off on status symbols, that's a trap. He said, "If your money doesn't make you stronger, smarter, or freer, it is useless." I had never heard anyone talk about money like this before. It wasn't about being rich or poor. It was about being free or trapped. It was a mindset. For years after that conversation, I have to admit, I ignored his advice. I got a job, and I did what everyone else does. I saved money. I watched my bank account number go up, and I felt safe. Or so I thought. I didn't learn new things. I didn't take any risks. I stayed in my comfort zone. And then life hit me, as it always does. I faced problems at my job. The industry changed. I felt stressed, anxious, and deeply afraid for my future. And suddenly I realized that my savings were not enough. They couldn't solve my real problem. The money was just a number on a screen. It couldn't give me new ideas. It couldn't give me new skills. It couldn't give me confidence. That's when I remembered his words, echoing in my head. Money runs out, skills stay. It was my wake-up call. I took a portion of my savings and I invested in myself. I started learning, I took courses on communication, I improved my English, I learned new digital skills that were in demand. It was scary. It felt like I was spending the very money I was supposed to be saving for an emergency. But slowly, everything began to change. My confidence grew. New opportunities started to appear. My fear started to fade away, replaced by a sense of control over my own life. Now let me be crystal clear. My grandfather never said, "Don't save money." That's not the lesson. He said, "Don't worship money." The point isn't to be reckless and spend everything. The point is to understand what money is for. Money is a tool. It is not the goal. You use a hammer to build a house. You don't just stare at the hammer. You should use money to learn, to build, to grow, to create value for others. Not just to hoard it in a bank account to feel safe, because that feeling of safety is an illusion. False safety is the most dangerous trap of all. So, if you are watching this right now, and you are only saving money, but you're not actively learning, not improving yourself, not growing your skills, then please listen carefully. You are not safe. You are stuck. The future doesn't belong to the people who have the most saved up. It belongs to the people who can learn the fastest, adapt the fastest, and grow the fastest. It belongs to the adaptable, not those who hide from change. My grandfather passed away many years ago. I miss him every day. But his words, his wisdom, they live inside me. Every single time I hesitate to invest in myself, every time I feel afraid to try something new, I hear his voice as clear as day. Don't protect your money, protect your ability to grow. And now, I want to pass this lesson on to you, because I know that one day, you will understand it too. Use your money to grow, because in the end, money itself will never save you. Your skills will, your adaptability will, your growth will. Thanks for watching. If this story resonated with you, consider subscribing for more.